Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Yep.
Let's do it. I'll go get 2 more people to help.
I'll go gather the materials.
For this lab, we will figure out what the spring constant of the spring is. We are interested, very interested.
We will need a timer, a spring, 5 weights, and a positive attitude.
For our procedure, first we need to measure the length of the spring with and without the weights on it. We will then hang the weight on the spring and pull it down and let it bounce. We will record how long it takes for the spring to go through 20 cycles. This is when the good stuff starts. After 5 trials are repeated and all of our data is collected, we will make 2 graphs. One with t² versus the mass and the other with force versus the stretch of the spring. We will use both of these graphs to find the spring constant for the spring. Freaky, I know, but that's physics.
After a long day's work, here's our data results. The length of the spring without the weight on was 13.5 centimeters.
After gathering our results, we organized them into a spreadsheet. We created different groups: mass, time, stretch of spring, which is length of spring with mass minus length of spring without mass, force, which is mass times gravity, period, which is time divided by 20, and period squared. From there, we created 2 graphs: a period squared versus mass graph, and a force versus stretch of spring graph. In order to find it, we needed to use this equation. Slope equals 4 pi squared divided by k. After plugging the t² versus mass slope into this equation, we found that the spring constant is 3.13. For the force versus spring stretch graph, the slope equaled the spring constant, which was 3.12.
For this lab report, we found what the constant of the spring is. We found out that it is around 3.125. Some possible sources of error could be the accuracy of pressing the start-stop button on the stopwatch and pulling the spring down too hard. These possible errors could be limited by using more accurate stopwatch and being more gentle with the spring. Our results are pretty trustworthy because we did 5 trials and were careful with our procedure and use of an accurate timer.